Hello, good evening everyone. So, you are joining with another session of our webinar conducted by 99x Technology, and I am Lakshin Karnaratna. So, today's topic will be delivery automation for React Native using Fast and CircleCI. So, let's get started with the introduction. So, what is Fastlane? Simply describing Fastlane, it's a suite of tools which could be used to automate the delivery of mobile applications. You could run a unit test, create the build, and at the end, deploy it to relevant stores. So, what is CircleCI? CircleCI is the platform that we are going to use to run Fastlane, and it has Linux servers which we can use to build Android, and it also has Mac machines which we can use to build iOS. Actually, it is not free, it's a paid version, and but there's a 1000 minute free Linux machine available in CircleCI, but the Mac OS plan you will only get a 2 weeks trial. Also, you can run Fastlane using Jenkins, but still there's a catch. If you want to build iOS, in that you will have to run Jenkins in a Mac machine. So CircleCI is a fully managed platform, so it's much easier, and we will be covering that in this demonstration. So iOS code signing redefined using Match. So if you're an iOS developer, you know the hassle of creating provision profiles certificates in the Apple developer account. But with Match, it's much easier. By running a simple command, it will create all those required certificates and provision profiles in for your application. And also it will be stored in a centralized repository which you can use to clone it in all the required machines with your developer members. And also you must be knowing that if you add a new device, each and every developer has to re-log into your developer account and get the new provision profiles and install it. But with Match, you can simply run a command and do it easily. And we will be demonstrating how to use Match during our demo. So moving on to the architecture that we are going to do in our demo. So what we are going to do is commit some code to Bitbucket, and we will be creating a tag. And once the tag is created, a build will be invoked to call Android Alpha, which will create an Android build, and it will be pushed to the Play Console Alpha channel. And the same will run for iOS beta, and it will be pushed to test flight. But there will be two approval jobs to push the build which we generated to the Play Console beta and to promote it to App Store Connect, because before we do it, we need to test our initial builds. So actually, in the real life scenario, what we do is like we promote it from beta to production. But since this is a demo, I'll be promoting it from alpha to beta. And also, while doing the iOS promote, actually I don't want to promote it to production in the App Store Connect, as this is a demo app. I'll be just running the command and showing you how to do it during the demo. So actually I wanted to do a live hands-on session, but still running some commands and building the app takes some time. So I had to pre-record the demo, and hope you will learn how to do this thing from end to end by starting with creating an application and finally delivering it to the relevant stores. And if you have any questions during the demonstration, I'll be available to answer them after the demo. So let's start with the demo. So before we start the demo, we have done some initial preparations. So I'll walk you through it. I have first created a new React Native project. And if you're not familiar in creating a new React Native application, you can just refer the official React Native documentation, navigate to the Getting Started guide, and using the React Native init command, you can create a new project. Also, I have created two applications, one in Android Play Store and one in iTunes Connect already. So I'm going to set the application ID for that application which I have created in the build.gradle inside the app directory. So I have already added the application ID, and same goes for the iOS. So I have changed the bundle identifier to match the app which I have created in the App Store. Also in iOS, I have added some mandatory images so that I can upload a test build to TestFlight. And in Android, you have to create a signing key to sign the APK. So if you are not familiar in doing that, you can refer to the signed APK Android guide in the official documentation, and you will be good to go. So let's start with the demo. Also, one more thing I forgot to mention, I have also created an app.test.js file which includes a simple test which to demonstrate how to run tests using CircleCI. Okay, now let's go to the demo. So the first thing what we should do is we should initialize Fastlane. So before that, let's navigate to the Fastlane documentation. First, I'll start with Android. So if you haven't installed Fastlane in your machine, you can use the Ruby Gems package manager to install it, or else you can use brew to install it. Since Fastlane is not specially focused for React Native, you should initialize Fastlane in both your Android and iOS projects separately. So first let's start with our Android project. So you navigate to the root directory, and from that you have to navigate to your Android directory in your React Native application and type sudo fastlane init. Always use sudo as there might be some permission issues. Okay, while initializing, it's asking for the package name. So I'll provide the package name. So I have to navigate to my Android app build.gradle, and I'm going to copy my package name. And paste it here. If you are not sure of your package name, you can even set it up later. I'll show you how to. And now it's asking for a path to the JSON secret file. You must be wondering, what's this JSON secret file? So if you scroll down on this Android setup page further, you will find a guide with steps to get the JSON secret. What it does is, Fastlane uses the Android publishing API to publish the APK. So you need to provide access to it. So after you complete all these steps, you will get a JSON, and you have to include that JSON in the app Android, in the Android directory, and you can name it whatever you want. I have named it as API_key.json, and also remember, never ever commit this to a public repository. So I'll provide the path to the JSON secret file. Since it's in the Android folder, I will just have to give the name. So it's asking me whether to download the existing metadata. So I will say yes. So it's asking to continue. I'll press enter, enter again, and enter. Okay, now we have finished initializing Fastlane. So let's go and check what are the changes. Now we have a new directory called Fastlane. And inside that we have two files, the app file and the fast file. In the app file we have the JSON key file which we specified and the package name. So in this file you can change the value anytime you want. And also we have a directory with metadata. If you have several languages, it will show like this. I only have English, and you can specify your short description, full description, etc. And now to add changelogs, we need to create a new folder, because when doing a delivery, we need to specify what's new in the application. So for that you have to create a changelogs folder, and if you are having an existing app which has a application in the Play Store which has changelogs, like if you have released several applications, then this folder might be automatically created for you. If not, you have to create it. So in the changelogs directory, you have to create a text file with the version code which you are delivering. So my version code will be 2, and in this you can add what's new. So for each delivery, for each application code, you will have to create a new text file. Okay, so now let's navigate to the fast file, which has all the code required. So it has given us some sample codes. It has a lane called test, which runs tests. But actually, this is to run native Android unit tests and not React Native just tests. So we won't be using it. So another sample have been given to upload a build to Crashlytics. So we will not be using it as well. So I will modify it. Actually, in this demonstration, what I'm doing is submitting an application to alpha and later promoting it to beta, since I don't want to make a release for this demo. So I'll change this name to alpha. Okay. And we remove Crashlytics. Now, how do we submit our build to the alpha channel? We can refer the documentation. Can go to the beta deployment section, and in this section it has this code: upload to Play Store track beta. We will be renaming it to alpha. So what this lane does is it will upload the APK to the production, but we don't want to do that. So I'm just going to promote my alpha build to beta. So we don't need to build it again, since I'm just doing a promote. So how do we promote it? So we'll go to the documentation of it. So you can refer all the things available that you can do with supply. So what we want to do is track promotion. So we need to add a parameter called track promote to and the current track. So when click this, I want to promote it to beta, and my current track is alpha. So what I'm basically doing in this thing is I will first build it and then upload it to alpha, and after that, using this lane, I will promote my alpha build to beta. But you must be wondering, why aren't I running just tests? Actually, since Fastlane doesn't have direct support to run just tests, I'll be using CircleCI to run it, as it is the recommended practice. Okay, now we are done with Android. So now we are going to initialize Fastlane for iOS. For that, we are going to navigate to our iOS directory and run the command sudo fastlane. To continue with the initialization process, I have to provide my Apple ID username. So I'll select the account which I want to use and the team. So I just have to continue by pressing enter, enter, and enter again. Okay, we are done initializing. So let's just go and see what has been added. So we'll go to the iOS directory. We have a new Fastlane folder, and inside the Fastlane folder we have an app file and a fast file. Let's see what this app file contains. It has our app identifier, our Apple ID username, and the team IDs. So before I continue further, I need to download the metadata from my existing app. So for that, I am going to run sudo fastlane deliver init. So deliver is the tool which Fastlane uses to upload the ITA to App Store for production. If it is test flight, it uses pilot. Okay, now we have successfully downloaded our metadata. We'll just go and check. We have our screenshots, metadata. Yes. So inside our language, so I only have English. So if you have multiple languages, it will be listed in different sections. And this is the place you want to put release notes for your application. But remember, this is only applicable if you are doing a production release. If you are just uploading it to a test flight, this will not be taken. So I'll cover that in a little bit. So now let's head to our deliver file. We actually don't have anything at the moment, and in this demonstration I'm not going to use it. So I'll navigate straight to the fast file. So here, as a sample code, it has provided us a code to upload to test flight. So I'm actually not going to use this increment build number in our demonstration. Actually, even in our projects, I am not using this, because if something goes wrong and if it fails the build, still the build number will be increased. So for me, it's much easier to manually enter the build number and add it to build. It's actually a personal preference, so if you like it, you can go ahead with it. So I'm going to comment that, and this is the lane beta which I am going to upload my build to test flight. So after that I'm going to create a lane called prod to. In this lane, what I'm going to do is promote the uploaded test file build into production. So let's see how we can do it. So let's go to the documentation of it. So if you scroll down the documentation, you will come across something like this. So this is the code to promote your build. So I'll just copy paste it. And in the documentation, sometimes you might find something like, instead of deliver, you might find upload to App Store. Actually, it's an alias for deliver. It does the same thing. So in this, you can see that the build number is hard coded, and we don't actually like it. So I'll let you know a solution laterwards. So for now, I'm actually not going to submit this build for review because you need to upload a lot of screenshots and upload a lot of info to do that, and I have not set it up. So we will not do an automatic release as well. I don't want to do it in this demo. So what is this force true? If you're doing it in the command line, you might get a verification HTML report which you need to accept. But since if we are using CircleCI, we don't have the option to approve manually, we will be setting it to accept by force. So I'm not going to skip my metadata. So I'm going to skip my screenshots and skip binary upload. So now let's see how we can get rid of this hard-coded value. Also, you must have noticed, like when submitting an app for review in App Store, you might be asked several questions, as in does your application have an advertising identifier, etc. So you can actually get rid of that by using this code. So here you can specify all your compliance information regarding your app and it will accept it. So this is the code which I was telling how to get rid of that hard-coded value. But unfortunately, this is not enough. You need to convert it to a string for it to work. Okay. So as I said earlier, I'm not going to submit my application for review as this is just a demonstration. So what we will be doing is submitting a test flight and then doing the command which is to promote, but what it will actually do is it will just run a pre-check and check whether everything is ready to be submitted for the review. Okay, now we are done with the fast file. We need to find out how we can perform code signing for our iOS applications. For that, Fastlane has a different tool called Match. So as I explained earlier, the theory, so in this demo, I'll be doing how to initialize Match in your project. So first we need to initialize Match. So for that, I'll run sudo Fastlane match init. So Fastlane match asks me whether I want to go ahead with JIT or Google Cloud, and I selected JIT. and after that it's asking me for the URL of the Git repo. So for this I have created a brand new repository in Bitbucket, and I have named it iOS certificates. So I'm going to give the HTTPS URL for now. Okay, and we are done. So we can go to our project and we can see that there's a new match file. So in this match file, there's a Git URL which I have specified and all the other information. So here I have to mention my username for the Apple Store. Okay, and next we have to specify the app identifier. If you want multiple, you can specify it like this. Since I'm having a single one, I'm just going to remove this. And let me quickly check my bundle identifier. So I'm going to copy paste it here. Yes, I'm done with the match file. So we have to remove, if you have already done automatically managed sign, we have to remove it, since Fastlane manages manual signing. So now you can see I don't have the provision profiles available. So let's see how we can create it using match. So it's really simple. We just have to type Fastlane match development to create the development provision profiles, and if they don't exist in our Apple developer account, it will create that as well and add it to the repo we created. So let's see how it works. Okay, while executing the command, it's asking me for a passphrase. Actually, these certificates are encrypted and stored in the repo, so we need to provide a password to decrypt it, and you will have to remember it. So I'm going to specify a password, type it in again. So now it's pushing the changes into the repo and all done. Let's go to our Xcode and let's see whether it's available. Yes, it is available. Now it's done. Now we need to create a provisional profile for the release, and we execute the same command. Instead of development, we are going to specify app store. Okay, now we have completed creating our provisioning profile for the release, and we'll go to Xcode and we are going to set that as well. Now we need to tell Fastlane to use match to perform code signing. So how are we going to do that? We are just going to use the command match, and we are just going to give the type which it has to use, and it will be app store, since we need provision profile with the release type to make a release to the test flight. So now it will use match to sign the code and build the app and upload to test flight. Okay, we are done with Fastlane. So now let's move on to CircleCI. So first what we have to do is we have to create a folder called .circleci, and make sure that this has to be in the root folder in your Git repository. So in the folder I'm going to create a new file called config.yml. So now you must be wondering, from where can we find the code to put here? Do we have to write everything? Actually, CircleCI has made our life easy. They have uploaded a repository for a sample code which we can use for React Native. So we can just type and search CircleCI React Native, and you get a GitHub project, and in this repo you can go to the CircleCI folder and config.yml, and I'll copy this entire thing okay, and I'm going to paste it in our config.yml. But now we have to make some changes. So we have a node job which will install our node modules, but I'm not going to use yarn. I'm going to use npm, and here I'm also going to change. So I will have a package.lock.json here as well. Okay, done with changing. I have to change here as well. Okay, so now what these lines do is it will perform npm install, and what is installed will be cached. So every time you run npm install, you don't have to install everything, you just have to install what's changed. So in this command, what it does is it runs the jest tests. As Fastlane doesn't have direct support, CircleCI is the one that we are going to use to run the tests. And here it will make a directory to store the test results, and I'm not going to use yarn. I'm going to use npm run test, and it has also set up an environment variable, which means where to store the JUnit XML output. Okay, so now we are going to persist these node modules into workspace so other jobs can access it, so we don't have to install node modules for each and every job. And we are storing the test results and storing the test results as an artifact. So after the build is done, we can go to the build and view the test results. So next we have a job called Android. I'm going to rename it as Android Alpha. So this will be the working directory, and the Docker image is Android API 27. But actually my project, let's see what's the version it's using. It's actually using 28, so I can directly go ahead with 28 instead of going ahead with 27. So I'll change that. So checkout path is okay, attached to workspace. So what this bundle install does is, if you are using any Fastlane plugins, it will install them in this step. But in this demo, we won't be using any Fastlane plugins. But still, I'll just keep the code. And we are not going to run Fastlane tests. Instead, we are going to execute the Fastlane Android Alpha lane, which will deliver an APK to the Alpha channel. So I don't want these commands. Remove them. So the only command which I require is Fastlane alpha, and I don't want to store test results. So as an artifact, we can store the build APK, so we can later access from CircleCI. So I have to give the path of the APK. Let me quickly get the path. So this is the default path where the app release APK will be stored. Okay, now we are done with the first Android job, and after that we need to promote this alpha build to beta channel. Okay, so I'm going to name this job as Android beta, and this will be the same. So what we are going to change here is just the command and the command name beta, and here we will not be building any APK, so we don't need any artifacts. We are just promoting the build from alpha to beta. Okay, we are done with it. Now moving on to the iOS section. So in iOS we will have a lane called beta which deploys to test flight, and the Xcode version I will be using 10.1.0 instead of 9, and this is the working directory, and here we have to change again. So npm install. You might be wondering why we are using npm install again, but in the Android job we were using the node modules which came from the node job. Actually, iOS is running on a different machine. It needs a Mac OS, and the Android and the node will run on a Linux machine. So the node modules will not be available. So you will have to install it again. Okay, we are all set here, and this is the same bundle installed. To install plugins if you have any. We don't have any Fastlane tests. I'm going to execute the beta lane. Okay. So no need to set up our tests, and also no need to store any tests. So we need to we can give the IPA file as an artifact, so we can access it later. So we just have to get the name. It should be React Native demo.ipa. Okay, we are done with this, and now we have another lane to configure. So we are going to take a copy of this. So I'm going to name it as iOS prod. So these things will be the same, and only thing which changes is prod, and we don't have any artifacts since it's just promoting the build. So we'll just double check the command using the fast file. Okay, we have a prod, and in Android we have alpha and beta. Okay, now we have to define the workflows. So here you can see that we are running the node job, and the Android job requires that the node job to be run because it requires node modules, and also this node job will run the JS test, and if it fails this will not run. So in iOS, why it requires node is because it runs the JS test. So in this workflow will run for each and every commit, but in actual scenarios we don't want that to happen. What we want is to run when we create a tag usually. So let's see how we can do it. So we can just go to CircleCI JIT workflows. Okay, here we find it, executing workflows for a JIT tag. So we'll just copy these filters, not this actually. We don't want to run it for any branch commit, so we are going to use this, and let's add it. So we need to add this for all the jobs, and actually we don't have an Android job anymore. It's called Android Alpha and iOS Alpha. So I'm going to specify the filters. So what this tells is it will run only for tags which starts with the letter V, because usually we create tags with the version name, version 0.01, etc. Okay, so now we have to create the Android beta and the iOS prod jobs as well. So for that, actually for each tag, what we usually want is to deliver the Android APK to the alpha channel and iOS to the test flight. So we don't want to actually release them automatically when a tag is created, because we have to perform several tests and verify whether the build is okay. So we need a manual approval prior to release it to production. And in our demonstration, it's similar to promoting the build from alpha to beta. You can obviously promote it from beta to production while you're testing this out. Okay, so I'll create an approval job called Android hold. So we have to give a type to this, type approval, and I'm going to create another approval task called iOS hold, and we have to give the type approval. Okay, so now let's create the same thing. So it's Android beta. Okay, And actually, since we are just promoting the build, we don't need a node, but instead it requires Android hold, which means it requires a manual approval prior to running this job. Okay, so let's do the same for iOS. Let's rename it as iOS prod, and it requires iOS hold. Okay, we are done with CircleCI config.yml. Okay, so before we run this in CircleCI, we have to make few changes. We'll navigate to fast file iOS, and we have to add a simple code to tell CircleCI to set up before running all the lanes. Okay, we have done that, and we are going to navigate to the match file. You can see that we have added the HTTPS URL for the certificates JIT, but we have to add the SSH URL. So I'm going to navigate. This is the repo, and I'm going to click clone, get the SSH URL and paste it here. Okay, done. And after that, navigate to gitignore. You have to remove this keystore, as we have to add the keystore file to the repo so that CircleCI can use it to sign the APK. But remember never to add the keystore to a public repository. Okay, and we will navigate to config.yml again. So here I'm going to make a change. It should start with app, not Android. And these filters should also be added to the Android hold and iOS hold. Also, okay, we are all set. I'm going to set the version code. So I'm going to set it as 5, and Xcode I'm going to set it as 5. Okay, so I'm going to commit the changes. Actually, I have committed most of the changes, so these are things which is remaining to be committed. Okay, let's commit. Okay, so let's go to CircleCI, and we have to log in. You can log in using your GitHub credentials or Bitbucket. I'm going to select Bitbucket. Okay, so this is the CircleCI dashboard, and you can see that I have already set up my project. And if you have not, you can go to Add Projects and just click Set Up Project. So since I have already set up my project, I'll go there. After setting up your project, you have to do some configurations. For that, you have to go to settings by clicking this gear icon. Okay, you have to add some environment variables. I'll show you what I have added. Fastlane password. This is the Apple developer account password. Fastlane user, which is the Apple developer account ID, and the match password, the password which you provided when creating your provision profiles using match. Okay, now we have to create a checkout SSH key. I'll just remove the one I have. to demonstrate how to create one. There's already a deploy key which has access to only for this repo, but for the iOS job to run, it requires access to the certificate repository as well. So we will be providing. So I'm going to use the developer, open the developer console, as CircleCI has a small bug. When you create a user key from here, it actually doesn't get added to big buckets, so you have to manually add it. So I'll show you how to do it. Go to the network tab, and once you create it, it will get a request, and here you have to copy the public key. Okay, I copied it, and then you have to go to your Bitbucket account, go to Bitbucket settings, go to SSH keys, and I'm going to remove the one I have, which I had already added. Click add key, CircleCI key, paste the public key, click add key. Okay, it's added. So now we need to trigger this build. So for that, I will create a tag. I'll create a tag name version 5, since we have added the code 5, and remember the V. It's the letter which triggers the build, as I explained earlier. So I'm going to add the tag. Okay, it's successfully added. Now let's go to CircleCI and let's wait and see until the job gets triggered, and you can see the no job got triggered. You must be wondering why the Android and the iOS jobs are missing. It's because no job is a prerequisite for those two, and it will only run if this job succeeds. So we'll wait and see. This will succeed in like 40 seconds. Okay, our node job succeeded, and you can see that the Android Alpha and the iOS Beta jobs started running. Okay, now we can see that all our 3 jobs have succeeded successfully. Now let's just go and check whether they have been added. So I'm in the app releases in the Play console. Let's scroll down. Okay, we have a release in Alpha. We'll just click edit release to check the version code, whether it's 5. Yes, the version code is fine, and it has successfully added it to Alpha. And let's go to app releases, and you can see that there's nothing in beta for now. And even if you navigate to iTunes Connect, so you can see that build number 5 has been added to test flight. Okay, so now we'll just quickly go through what has been done in these jobs. So this is the Android Alpha job, and we can see that these commands have been executed successfully, and let's check whether it has uploaded the APK as an artifact. Okay, it has uploaded, it seems. Let's go. Yes, the APK is available. So let's just go and check the iOS as well. So it has run the commands, and so in iOS it has uploaded the IPA as an artifact. You can download it from here. And if you notice why this is red, it's because some cache hasn't been available when restoring, so that's not an issue. Okay, now when creating the config.yml, I told you that we are creating some manual approval jobs to approve the production workflow. So to access that, we are going to workflows, select our project, and this is on hold, version 5 tag, so we'll go inside that. and you can see kind of a diagram. So here it says from after running node app, it has run iOS beta and Android alpha. So here's the Android hold, which runs the Android beta, and the iOS hold, which runs iOS prod. So I'm going to approve the Android hold to promote the alpha build into beta. So I'm going to approve the job, and I'm going to do the same with iOS, approve it. In iOS, I have specifically told not to submit for review, but it will perform the pre-check command, which is to check whether everything is fine to be submitted for review. So we can go back to jobs, and you can see that the Android beta has already completed. So we'll just quickly go to Play Console and see whether it has been promoted into beta. So in beta it says you have a release in beta which hasn't been rolled out. I'll just go to the edit release and check whether it's the same version 5. Yes, it's the same version code 5 and it has been promoted to beta. So you can do the same to promote it to production. Okay, so now let's wait and see until this succeeds. Okay, we can see that the iOS production has also succeeded. Actually, I cannot show you anything in the App Store Connect because I haven't mentioned to submit it for review, because I don't want to release a demo app for submission. So I'll just show you the commands it has run, the job. So it has run pre-check and it has checked for violations and stuff, and everything is in place. So that's the end of the demo, and hope you gain a lot out of it. So that's the end of the. Okay, so I think the demo was a bit technical. It was like that because I had to cover from end to end how to perform it correctly. I hope it was clear for everyone. So if you have any questions, you can ask me now. Okay, seems like we don't have any questions, and I hope the webinar was clear for everyone. So have a nice day and let's meet with our next webinar. Thank you very much for joining with us.